Welcome back to Pachehra Talks. My name is Arun and I'm working with Novin Tech, which is one of the best organization to work with. Also received many awards related to Great Place to Work. And this is my channel and these are my views on generative AI. Yes, this is the next video in artificial intelligence series and today we are going to understand generative AI, what it is, and how actually this AI learns. Isn't that interesting? We know how human does, but how exactly a machine can learn like a human and react like a human, not exactly react, but generate content like a human. Let's put it this way. It's not reacting now, but maybe in future. But you can say it is reacting when you prompt something. When you ask something, it reacts on that situation. If we talk about the chatbots. Anyways, let's stick to the point. Enough of fun. Generative AI. Let's understand what it is first. So, generative AI refers to a subset of artificial intelligence technology that have the ability to generate new content, right? So it can generate new content. As the name says, generative means generate. It can generate the new content such as text, images, music, or code. We all are familiar with this. Chat GPT can generate code, text, DALL-E can do the images, and there are so many other tools available that they can do a lot of things for you. Generate, which is not exactly copying pasting but actually generating something new that is similar to human generated content. This capability is grounded in learning from what? Absolutely correct if you are saying data. Yes, because we learn from the data as well, but nobody is going to insert data in us. Our all the cognitive abilities is observing things every day, right? Similarly, what we need to do, we need a vast amount of data on how humans write, draw, compose, or code, and then we'll feed this data to AI algorithm, and it learns. But there is a proper process to do that, and this is what we call it how AI learns. This is our next topic. So we understand what is generative AI. Just to refresh, it is just like any other artificial intelligence. This is refers to ability to generate new content. A subset of artificial intelligence technologies that have the ability to generate new content. That's why generative AI. But now question is how AI can learn. It isn't just a machine. How come a machine can learn? So now we are going to break down the process of how AI learns. What exactly AI is learning, the patterns in data, and generates new content into the uh, as per the request. So the very first thing, because it is learning on data, so very first thing is data collection. So the very first step is gathering a large data set. This data set could be anything related to the task you want the AI to perform, such as text, images, sounds, or videos. The kind of AI you're developing accordingly, you need that data. The idea is to provide the AI with as much high quality and diverse or mixed data as possible. This is similar to giving it a broad range of experience to learn from. So the very first step is data collection. Let me put it here, data collection. That is the first step of how AI learns. Let me put this one. The next step is pre-processing data. This is our next step in how AI learns. Pre-processing data. Before the AI can learn from data, it often needs to be cleaned and organized. We just do not want to give anything To AI, we want the data must be clean and organized. This could mean correcting errors, formatting the data consistently, or even labeling it in a ways that help the AI understand what it is looking at. For example, for text, this might involve splitting it into sentences or words. For images, it might involve resizing them to uniform size, right? So we want our data is acceptable for AI to get learned from, right? All right, so that is called pre-processing the data. Okay, then what is next? Now we have data. Now we have pre-processed the data. It is ready to learn kind of data, the good data, the healthy data, the data which will help AI to get learned. But who is learning in the AI? If your answer is choosing a model, you are correct. First, we need to understand, we need to choose the model, and then that model will get trained. So choosing the model, because the heart of an AI system is its model. We have already talked about in previous video, which is a mathematical structure that will learn from the data. Which data? Pre-processed data and the data that we have collected for the purpose we want to build the AI. Okay. And there are many types of models. We have already gone through a lot of general models. But here we're talking about generative AI. So neural networks are particularly popular for generative tasks. We will get into the neural networks uh, in the next video maybe. Just understand the neural network is the model that generative task is used. So these models are inspired by the human brain. That's why we also call it neural networks, because we have, as a human, we do have neurons, the network of neurons, which actually accept the data or the something if somebody calls your name and respond. So, and it consists of the layer of neurons that can learn complex patterns just like humans. But how? By training the model. So this is the fourth point, training the model. So training the model involves feeding it the data and letting it adjust its internal parameters to learn from the data. This is done through a process called learning or training, where the model makes predictions based on the data it sees and then corrects itself based on how accurate those predictions are. Over time, the model gets better at making predictions. For generative models, the training process involves learning the distribution of the data. In simple terms, the model learns what typically data looks like, what makes a sentence grammatically correct, or what makes an image recognizable as a cat, just like humans. Okay, and once this is trained, what would happen? Once this is trained, it can generate the new content, right? You must be thinking, how come it's generating new content? It just learned few things. So we'll see about that. Once the model is trained, it has trained, you can start generating new content, because that was the purpose of this AI that you're developing. This is done by feeding the model a prompt or some initial input and letting it produce an output based on what it learned during training. For example, let's take text generation. You might give it a sentence starter and it generates the rest of the paragraph. Maybe if we take an example of image generation, you provide a description and it generates an image that matches the description, like DALI, and the text was ChatGPT. Now, how it actually generates the new content? Okay, just for the understanding purpose, the model uses the patterns and rules it learned during training to produce new content, right? It doesn't just replicate the data it was trained on. Instead, it combines elements of the data in new ways. Guided by the complex patterns it has internalized. This process is a bit like a musician improvising a new piece of music based on the scales and chords they have learned. They are creating something new by applying patterns they are familiar with, just like humans. Okay? That's why training is important. That's why diverse data, if you remember, we said diverse data. When we are collecting the data, it should be diverse, like mixed kind of data, so that it can learn all the patterns. All right, let's take another example just to make a point here. Imagine teaching a child to draw animals by showing them thousands of pictures of different animals. Over time, the child learns what makes a cat, a dog, the shapes, sizes, and features typical of each, right? For dog or cat. So when asked to draw a new animal they have ever seen before, they use what they have learned about animal features to create something new. Four legs, right? That's similar to how generative AI works. It learns from lots of data and then uses that knowledge to create new original piece of content. Okay, so that is how it works. All right, now we know how AI learns: data collection, pre-processing, choosing a model, training a model, and generating a new content. So by breaking down the process into these steps, we can understand the sophisticated workings of AI in a relatable way. Now let's take an example. Let's simplify the concept of how generating AI learns and generates new content with creating a recipe generator AI. Okay, this is what we are trying to do now. This is our scenario to understand all these points that we talked about. So what would be the first step in recipe generator AI that we are trying to build? The first step would be data collection. Okay, so what data are we collecting here? Gathering a large collection of recipe including ingredients, quantities, cooking methods, and cooking times. And this data set serve as the learning material for the AI, teaching it about different cuisines, ingredients, or cooking techniques, right? So we are collecting data regarding recipes, different kind of recipes. Then what the second step is pre-processing the data. So in our case, what we'll do, we'll standardize the recipe formats, list of ingredients or steps, and encode this information in a way that AI can understand, such as converting text to numerical values or categorizing ingredients and cooking methods. Now, here is the trick. First of all, we need distinct data, various recipes, so that AI can grasp the main concept, what recipe is, how it actually working. But when we pre-process it, we standardize the recipe formats along with, we need to put it or encode this information in a way that AI can understand. Why is that so? Because AI, particularly in the context of natural language processing, doesn't learn language in the same intuitive, conceptual way like we do, humans do. Instead, it process and understand language through mathematical and statistical methods. The core of these methods involves converting text into a format that AI algorithm can process, which usually numbers or numericals. You must have heard the token in OpenAI ChatGPT. If not, we will in future videos. So that's what the pre-processing is happening. Along with the data standardization, this is also something we need to keep in mind. Okay. So pre-processing makes the data uniform and easier for AI to analyze and learn from. Then select a type of neural network known for text generation, because recipe will come in text, such as long short-term memory LSTM network, or transformer-based model like ChatGPT, generative transformer, which are good at understanding and generating sequences of text, kind of the model that we need to choose. Now, these models are capable of learning patterns in text data like recipe and can generate coherent and creative new sequences based on that learning. Okay, so that's what we are choosing that model here for recipe generator AI. Now, what we need to do with that model? We need to train them. Now, train the selected model on the pre-processed recipe data, allowing it to learn the structure of recipes, including how ingredients are typically combined and the sequence of cooking steps. So the model learns the rules of recipe creation, such as which flavors or ingredients go well together and the order of operations in cooking. Like in Indian cooking, we put little oil and then jeera and things like that, or onions or tomatoes. So it started grasping the concept, how exactly the recipe is happening. Okay, then it can generate new recipes for you. All right. So how? Once trained, use the model to generate new recipes. Input a few ingredients, right? That I only have these three things. Give me a cuisine that I can create something out of it, or a cuisine type into model, and it generates a recipe for you, including steps and cooking times. To provide users with innovative recipes tailored to their preferences or available ingredients, enhancing their cooking experience and making the app more valuable. Just adding here, because there is a reason behind creating the recipe uh, AI. So in this scenario, we used generative AI to transform a collection of traditional recipe into a creative engine that produces new, unique recipes for its user as per the information or content that they have, the ingredients that they have, right? So that's how it learns. Now take another example of Chat GPT, because we just need to process. We also need to process, right? How actually AI learns. Just to cement the knowledge, let's take it again with this pipeline of ours, kind of. Imagine like we are developing ChatGPT, a version of generative AI designed to understand and generate human-like text. So, what is the first step? Well, the first step is collection, data collection. Collect a vast data set of text, including books, articles, websites, conversation transcripts covering a wide range of topics, language, and styles. All right, vast range of distinct, mixed. Now, we could not just give the comedy, right? Vast data, mixed data, the diverse data set, because the diverse data set teaches ChatGPT about human language, including grammar, vocab, and the various ways information can be structured and conveyed, sarcasm, joke, comedy, drama, everything, right? Now, once we have the data, we need to pre-process the data, which means clean and organize the data to make it suitable for training. This includes removing irrelevant content first, then correcting errors, and finally formatting the text to ensure consistency. Because we know AI models like neural networks cannot understand text in its raw form. Not like humans, they don't understand English language or any other language. The first step in training such models on a text data is to convert the text into numbers, as models can only process numerical data, right? So that's what is happening here. So pre-processing ensures that ChatGPT learns from high quality data, improving its ability to understand and generate coherent and accurate text. Once we have pre-processed it, then we're going to use that data on what? On a model. So we need to choose the model first. Now select a neural network architecture suited for processing sequential data and generating text. For ChatGPT, a transformer based model is chosen because of its effectiveness in handling long range dependency in text, right? That's why GPT. T stands for transformer. The transformer architecture allows ChatGPT to consider the context of entire paragraph or conversations when generating responses, leading to more relevant and coherent outputs. And finally, we gotta train that model. Yeah, we gotta train that model. So train the model on the pre-processed data set. The model learns by predicting the next word in a sentence given the previous words, adjusting its internal parameters based on the accuracy of its prediction. That's what the training is. So this training process helps ChatGPT learn the pattern, structure, and nuances of human language, enabling it to generate text that follows logical and grammatical rules. And finally, once it is trained to generate new content. It is trained to help us. It is trained to make our job easy and interesting. So, once trained, ChatGPT can generate text based on the prompts given by users, the way we use it, to assist users by providing information, generating creative content, answering questions, and more. Now, in the ChatGPT scenario, the generative AI model learns from a broad data set of human generated text through steps of data collection, pre-processing, model selection, and training. Once adequately trained, ChatGPT can generate new text based on the patterns and information it has learned. All right, then. Now, let's simplify the concept of model like ChatGPT learning to predict the next word in sequence, right? Because that's what it is doing, right? Because in the training model, we mentioned the model learns by predicting the next word in sentence given the previous words, right? So let's understand this learning to predict the next word in a sequence with an easy to understand example, because that will help us to cover the ground of unknown. Example, right? All right. So imagine you're playing a game with your friends where someone starts a sentence and each person in the circle has to add one word to continue the sentence based on the words that they have already been said. Just stick to this example. This will blow your mind how this actually works. Okay. So the goal is to make the sentence as long and meaningful as possible in the game that we guys are playing between our friends. So in this game, you're trying to guess the most appropriate next word that fits with the previous words to keep the sentence coherent and grammatically correct. All right. So the initial sentence is the quick brown fox. Well, now it's your turn to add a word based on the words the quick brown fox. You might predict that a logical next word would be jumps because you have heard the phrase or fox jumps, right? So the quick brown fox jumps in various contexts and it makes sense grammatically and logically. So action in AI terms will be input to the model is the quick brown fox and model's task to predict the next word. The model's output would be jumps, just like human will say jump. So that's how the next word is predicted. So the model, let's say how the AI model learns this. Well, training data, we know that. So the model has been exposed to a massive amount of text data, including sentences where the quick brown fox is followed by jumps. It's also seen many other sentences, structures, learning the rules of grammar and the context in which words are typically used. So it understands those patterns, those structures, and because of that experience of so much of data, it can predict, right? So and when there was a learning process during training, when the model is given the sequence, the quick brown fox, it uses its knowledge from the training data to predict the most likely next word. If the actual next word in the training data was jumps and the model predicted jumps, this prediction reinforced the model's parameters through a process called back propagation. If the model predicted a different words like eats, the error in prediction would lead to adjustment in the model's parameter to improve future predictions. So it is also self-improving itself, and it can keep on playing with itself and improving itself. No need to have multiple, people to teach someone. So now you'll be wondering what is back propagation that I used. Well, this is a key process in training neural networks where the model adjusts its internal parameters based on the difference between its prediction and the actual next word. This process helps the model learn from time to make more accurate predictions. And finally, the outcome after training on countless sequences and continually adjusting its parameters, the model becomes proficient in predicting the next word in a various context, not just for the quick brown fox, but for any sequence of the words it's given. So, in essence, predicting the next word in a sequence is like word game where you use your knowledge of language, grammar, and context to guess the most appropriate next word. For an AI model like ChatGPT, this ability is honed through extensive training on large dataset, learning from the patterns of word usage in those datasets, and continually refining its predictions based on the feedback. And this process enables the model to generate coherent and contextually appropriate text based on the input it receives. So, with this, I think we are now familiar with generative AI and how exactly it learns. So, I hope it was informative, and we'll meet you with next video in our artificial intelligence series, maybe with neural networks or something else, something new, something interesting. And thank you for watching, and you guys have a wonderful day. Bye bye.